I did not want to share this publicly for 20 years. For 2 decades, I kept what I am about to tell you locked in the deepest chamber of my heart. I shared it with perhaps 3 people: my eldest son, my closest Shavruah, my study partner of 40 years, and a dying woman in a hospital in Jerusalem who needed to hear it before she left this world. That is all. 3 people in 20 years. But something has been pressing on me. Not a feeling, not an emotion, a weight, a divine urgency that I cannot explain and I will not ignore any longer. My name is Rabbi Shimon. I am 83 years old. I have studied Torah for over 60 years. I have buried students. I have blessed grandchildren. I have sat at the bedsides of the dying and walked with the grieving through their darkest valleys. And I have seen things that most rabbis will never speak of publicly because they are afraid of how it sounds, because the academy does not like what cannot be categorized, because religion has become more interested in managing people's comfort than telling them the truth. Tonight I am releasing it, all of it. Before I go one word further, I need you to do something right now. Type the word E-M-E-T in the comments. Emet, it means truth. In Hebrew, it is the seal of the living God. When you type that word, you are saying, I came here tonight for truth, not for comfort. I am ready. Type E-M-E-T right now and press that like button. Every time you press it, you are telling the algorithm to show this video to one more person who is sitting somewhere tonight in the dark, wondering if God has forgotten them. Subscribe to this channel. What I am releasing here is not entertainment. It is ancient medicine for a modern emergency. Subscribe and turn on your notifications, because what I have coming will change the architecture of your faith permanently. Now, let me tell you what happened. It was the winter of 2003. I was 63 years old. I had been experiencing some chest tightness for weeks, the kind a stubborn man ignores because he is too busy teaching and too proud to slow down. One evening, after evening prayers, I collapsed in the study hall. Massive cardiac arrest. My students told me later that I was clinically dead for 11 minutes before the paramedics revived me. 11 minutes. In medicine, that is an eternity. The brain begins to die within 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen. I was gone for 11. And in those 11 minutes, I went somewhere. Now listen to me carefully. I am not a man given to mysticism without grounding. I have spent 60 years arguing with the text, wrestling with the commentaries, sitting with Rambam and the Baal Shem Tov until 3 in the morning. I do not report visions carelessly. What I am about to tell you, I have verified against the Torah, against the Talmud, against the Zohar. And everything I saw, everything had precedent. It was as if I had been reading the map my whole life without ever having visited the territory. And suddenly, there I was, in the territory. I stood, if you can call it standing, because I had no body. Yet I was entirely aware. I stood in a place of absolute stillness. There was light, but not light the way we understand it. It was not something that illuminated objects. It was the substance itself. And I heard, not with ears, but with something deeper. I heard what I can only describe as the sound of absolute knowing, as if every question I had ever carried dissolved simply because I was present, and then I was shown things. I want to pause here because this is the part that has kept me silent for 20 years. What I was shown was not what I expected. I expected to see heaven and hell in the way we imagine them from the paintings and the stories. I expected judgment as a courtroom. What I actually witnessed was something far more surgical, far more exact, far more devastating to everything I thought I understood about money blessing and how God measures a life. The first thing I was shown was a set of scales. And before you dismiss this as religious metaphor, I want you to understand that in the ancient tradition, in the teachings of Rabbi Saadia Gaon, in the Zohar's descriptions of the heavenly tribunal, the scales of divine judgment are not poetic. They are structural. They are the architecture of the afterlife. And what was being weighed on those scales destroyed everything the modern prosperity gospel has been teaching for 50 years. Do you know what was not on those scales? Your bank account was not on the scales. The house you built was not on the scales. The business empire you spent your life constructing was not on the scales. Not $1, not one asset, not one achievement that the world would have called success. The great Maimonides, the Rambam once wrote in his Mishneh Torah, a person's true wealth is not measured by what he possesses, but by what he has given away and what his giving produced in the souls of others. And when I first encountered that teaching as a young student, I respected it intellectually. Standing there wherever there was, I understood it in my marrow. What was on the scales was different. On one side, every moment of chesed, every act of loving kindness, no matter how small, the extra patience with a difficult student, the anonymous envelope slipped under a struggling family's door, the hours spent sitting with someone in grief when you had 100 other things to do, the money given not for recognition, but because your heart was genuinely moved. That was on the scale. On the other side, every moment when you had the capacity to give and you chose instead to grasp. Every time you tightened your fist around what you had out of fear. Every time you saw a need and walked past it. Every time the love of accumulation overrode the call of human dignity. This is what wrecks your theology. Because the prosperity gospel, and I say this with love, not with condemnation, the prosperity gospel has it partially right and catastrophically wrong at the same time. It is right that God wants to bless you. The Torah is unambiguous. The Bracha, the blessings in Deuteronomy chapter 28, are real. The Lord will open to you his good treasury, the heavens, to give the rain of your land in its season, and to bless all the work of your hands. Real. I believe it. I have seen it happen. But the prosperity gospel has created an entire generation of believers who think that wealth is the destination, who think that the blessing is the point, who have spent their entire spiritual lives trying to figure out how to get God to give them more money, when the actual purpose of the money, the actual reason God was going to release it to them, was so that they could become the channel of blessing to someone else. Type shalom in the comments right now. Not as a tradition, not as a habit, as a declaration. Shalom means wholeness, completeness, the absence of lack in every dimension, body, soul, spirit, and yes, finances. When you type that word, you're declaring that you want the whole picture, not just the financial blessing without the understanding of what the blessing is for. Type shalom right now. Because here is the second thing I was shown, and this one shattered me. I was shown a record. Not a book, exactly. Something more alive than a book. A living accounting of every financial decision I had ever made, not the amounts, not the investments, not the profits or the losses, but the intention beneath every transaction. Why did I give? Why did I withhold? What was I afraid of? What was I attached to? What did I trust? And the record was not presented to me with judgment in the sense of punishment. It was presented to me with the pure light of truth. And truth, when you see it clearly, is its own judgment. I did not need anyone to condemn me. I saw exactly where I had been generous in my spirit, and exactly where I had served the idol of security more than I had served God. There is a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidic Judaism, that I have carried with me every day since I came back. He taught the world was created for the sake of each individual person, and therefore every coin that passes through your hands is a test of who you really are. When I heard that teaching as a young man, it seemed like beautiful poetry. Standing in that space of pure light, I understood it was prophecy. Every coin, every dollar, every financial choice, not recorded in a ledger of punishment, but inscribed in the living record of who you actually are. And this is what the modern church and the modern synagogue are both failing to say clearly enough. Money is a spiritual diagnostic. It reveals your true theology more accurately than your doctrinal statement ever will. What you do with money when no one is watching, that is your actual belief system. That is what showed up in the record I was shown. Now let me bring this out of the abstract and into your kitchen table, into your bank account, into your marriage, into the stress you carry every single day. I have taught these principles now for 20 years since coming back, and I want to give you 3 specific things, 3 practices rooted in Torah that will begin to realign your financial life with what I saw on those scales. The first is this: every morning before you look at your phone, before you check your accounts, before you think about your bills or your budget, you say this declaration out loud. You say it in whatever language speaks to your deepest heart. What I have been given is enough to be a blessing today. I release the spirit of fear and I open my hands. That is it. 7 seconds. But those 7 seconds rewire the neural and spiritual architecture of your entire day. You are not denying that you have needs. You are refusing to let scarcity be the lens through which you see the world. And Rabbi Akiva, that great giant of Torah who taught even in times of unimaginable persecution, Rabbi Akiva once said, "Whoever does not judge himself favorably will ultimately be judged unfavorably by heaven. Begin each day by judging yourself not as a person defined by what you lack, but as a person equipped to give something today, however small." The second practice is one that the ancient rabbis called Tzedakah, before the blessing. Give before you receive. Now, I have heard the objections. I have heard them for 60 years. Rabbi, I am in debt. Rabbi, I barely have enough for rent. Rabbi, you are telling me to give money when I do not have money. Yes, that is exactly what I am telling you. And here is why. It is not sentimental. It is structural. When you give before you receive, even if what you give is small, even if it is $10 from a nearly empty account, you are making a declaration in the spiritual realm that is louder than any prayer. I'm not controlled by scarcity. I operate from abundance because my source is not my salary. My source is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills and who has never once run out. That declaration, not the theology of it, not the sentiment of it, but the actual physical act of releasing money when your flesh is screaming to hold it, that act opens what the Kabbalists call the channels of Bracha, the channels of blessing. They do not open through belief alone. They open through action that costs you something real. And the third practice is this, and I want you to write this down right now. Physically write it. Get a piece of paper. The Zohar teaches that the act of writing in the physical realm creates a parallel inscription in the spiritual record. Write down this sentence in your own handwriting: I am not my debt. I am not my deficit. I am the beloved of the one who parts seas, and my provision is already prepared. Fold that paper 3 times 3 is the number of divine completion. It appears across the Torah in patterns of covenant and confirmation. Fold it 3 times and place it in your wallet. Every time you open your wallet, every time you reach for a card or a bill, you will be touching that declaration. You will be reminded of what you actually are, not what your current bank balance is telling you that you are. Now I want to stop here and speak directly to someone watching this right now. You have been carrying a hidden shame about money, not just stress. Shame. You feel like your financial situation is evidence that God has rejected you, or that you did something wrong years ago and you are still paying for it, or that everyone else seems to understand a secret about blessing that no one ever told you. You have prayed, you have fasted, you have given offerings, you have done everything the preachers told you to do, and still the breakthrough has not come the way you believed it would. And deep in the most private part of your heart, you have begun to wonder if God is real, if any of this is real. If you are fooling yourself, I need you to hear me. You are not fooling yourself. What I saw on the other side of those 11 minutes was a God of absolute, consuming, relentless love who is so precise in his understanding of your situation that he knows the exact number of times you have cried yourself to sleep over money. He knows the exact conversation you had last Tuesday that left you feeling hopeless. He knows the fear that woke you at 3 a.m. He knows. And the scroll of your life is not written in the language of failure. It is written in the language of preparation. There is a season in the Torah. It appears in the story of Joseph, where everything looks like abandonment, the pit, the slavery, the prison, 13 years of what looks by every external measure like God has forgotten. And then in one day, in one conversation, in one moment of divine appointment, everything inverts. The prisoner becomes the prince. The forgotten becomes the exalted. The one who was sold becomes the one who saves. And the scripture says something breathtaking. It says that Joseph looked at his brothers, the very men who had thrown him in the pit, and he said, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." You are in the pit right now. Some of you have been in it for years. And I am telling you with the authority of a man who has stood on the other side and come back, the pit is not your ending. The pit is your preparation. Your breakthrough is already prepared. I want to close with this because this is the piece I have been most reluctant to share publicly. And tonight, I am releasing it in full. When I was brought back, when I felt the shock of returning to my body, which was the most violent physical sensation I have ever experienced, like being forced back into a room that had become too small. When I came back, the first thing I did was weep, not from pain, from grief, because I had seen what was possible. I had seen what a human life fully surrendered to the law of chesed fully operating as a channel of divine blessing rather than a vault for personal accumulation, I had seen what that life looks like from the other side. And it is more beautiful than anything this world has produced. It is the life you were designed for, not the life of grinding and grasping and hoarding and protecting. The life of open hands and open gates. The ancient blessing, the priestly blessing in Numbers chapter 6 says, "May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace." Shalom. That final word, shalom, is not a wish. In the original Hebrew, it is a declaration of completion. The ancient rabbis taught that shalom is God's own name because shalom is the state of having nothing missing, nothing broken, nothing out of alignment. That is what God is releasing over your finances tonight. Not just money, wholeness, the kind of wholeness that money can participate in but cannot produce on its own. I am speaking now to every person who has been faithful in the wilderness, every person who has tithed from near empty accounts, every person who has given when it cost them something real, every person who has prayed over debt and spoken blessing over what looked like barrenness. Heaven has a record of every one of those acts. They are inscribed. They are not forgotten. And there is a moment coming. I do not know if it is tomorrow or next month or next year, but it is coming. And I'm not saying this as motivation. I am saying this because I saw the structure of it with my own eyes. There is a moment coming when everything you have planted in faithfulness will break the surface at once. And the people around you will call it luck. And you will know exactly what it is. May the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the one who opened the sea, who rained bread from heaven, who kept sandals from wearing out for 40 years in the desert, may he open over your life a gate of blessing that cannot be shut by any spiritual force, any economic force, any human opposition. May the Bracha, the full overflowing, pressed down and running over blessing, begin to manifest in your finances, in your health, in your marriage, in your children, and in the deep places of your soul where you have been dry for too long. May every spirit of fear concerning money be broken from your life right now in the name of the Most High. May you be found in the record that matters, not as a person who accumulated, but as a person who channeled. Not as a vault, but as a river. Not as a wall, but as a gate. If this video reached you tonight, it was not an accident. This found you, not the other way around. Subscribe to this channel. What I am releasing here is medicine, not entertainment. Like this video tells the algorithm to carry this to someone who is sitting in their car right now crying about money, asking God if he is listening. Share this with one person who needs it tonight. Just one. That one act of sharing, that is Tzedakah. That is righteous giving, and it will be inscribed. Go to the comments right now and write this declaration. I am a channel of blessing. My breakthrough is already prepared. Write it. Declare it. Let it be inscribed. I will see you in the next video. Shalom.